everybody. Welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we are going to be giving you guys our NFL Seekers consensus fantasy football tight end rankings. It's a combined ranking based on all three of our host rankings. It's the first of a few of these episodes. We're going to be doing one for each position. Super excited for this series. How are you, Shane?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Tight ends are definitely always interesting to talk about when it comes to fantasy, but I feel like the three of us have solid rankings. The consensus or whatever the average out that they come out to definitely seems solid. So they'll be fun to talk about. It's a shame we don't have Josh with us again today. He just seems to not be able to figure his stuff out, but that's all right. You and I just have more fun together, anyways.
Yeah, we'll mention his rankings as we go. And I did want to ask you about your draft strategy. Talking about tight ends, like there's a few top tier tight ends at the top, and then there's kind of a mid tier, and then there's some high upside, low floor options later on. Are you kind of drafting the higher tier tight ends? Or are you kind of kicking for later options, or what are you doing?
So I'm it for tight ends, it definitely depends on how it falls to me and what pick I have. If I have the fifth pick, Kelce's in heavy consideration there. Sixth, seventh pick, if Kelce's there, I'm probably taking Kelce. But then after that, I'm probably going to wait a little bit on tight end. There's a lot of good value later in the drafts. One of my favorite players overall, not even just tight ends, just favorite overall players is Darren Waller, especially for his value. So definitely would like to try to draft Darren Waller in about the sixth round where he's going. And then after that, I'm a big Pat Freiermuth guy. I'm starting to get really big on Kincaid. And then also if you've listened to us before, I'm big on Chigakonkwo, and he's a huge value right now. So I'm pretty much going to be waiting on tight end unless I get Kelce in the first round.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I do love the value of TJ Hockenson in round 4. I feel like that's pretty incredible because I don't really love taking tight ends in the first 3 rounds, but round 4 for a guy like Hockenson is really worth it to me. After that though, if I don't get a Travis Kelce, I definitely am waiting for like the Dalton Kincaids, Pat Freiermuths, the guys, later on that can still start for you and have upside. And there's a guy that you really love, Chigakonkwo. I think that he could start too. We won't talk about him in our top 10, but you could get him late and he could be a starter for you.
Definitely. And I also feel like Mark Andrews never gets talked about. He's obviously one of the best tight ends, but it's just where you have to draft him in that, he's going after 301, the first pick in the third round right now. I just don't know if I can get behind drafting a tight end right there with all the upside around him that you could take. And he's got, obviously Lamar's a great quarterback, but they've added other weapons. Andrews tends to get hurt, and he's a big rushing quarterback. So I don't know why I'm out on Andrews. It just feels like I don't want anything to do with him for where he's being drafted.
It's tough because obviously Andrews is great. There's just so many good options in the third round where he's going as the first pick in the third round when Travis Kelce's going as the 8th pick. If you think about it, it's not too bad a value for Mark Andrews. It's just really hard to take him with all the stars that are going around him.
Yeah, I'd rather you got Josh Jacobs right now. Obviously, he's fallen in ADP because of stuff that's going on, but he's going a couple picks right now into the second. Much rather have Josh Jacobs and Mark Andrews. Ramondre Stevenson's going a couple of picks after him, so it's you can get running backs like that, and I'd much rather have those type of guys on my team than Mark Andrews.
But we'll get into our top 10. I'm excited to talk about these guys. We'll start off with our NFL Seekers number 10 guy, and interestingly enough, we all have him at number 10. That is Evan Engram, who finishes the tight end 5 last year. Is a great first season in Jacksonville. He was used kind of like their wide receiver 1 almost in some points of the season. They really relied on him. Like against the Chiefs, they definitely used him as a wide receiver 1. He's a really good receiver, runner after the catch. He definitely had hands problems and drops problems earlier in his career, but last year that didn't really show up, and he was pretty great for Jacksonville. So, I mean, 10 does seem low for him finishing as the tight end 5 last year, but you definitely have to consider Calvin Ridley coming over. He's looking like he can be a true wide receiver 1 alpha in that offense that they're going to hyper target. So it does make Evan Engram a little bit more suspect. but he's still going to be a solid option. And he's going as the 10th pick in the 7th round, and he's being drafted as the 8th tight end off the board. So it's definitely not bad value, and he can start for you and be productive. He might just be a little inconsistent now.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. You mentioned Calvin Ridley. That's why he's being drafted where he is. Last year, he had 8 games with over 20% target share in that offense. I don't think we're going to see that often this year. Now with Calvin Ridley there, so that's definitely why I have him lower than what he finished last year. I do still like him. He's a late 7th round. I don't know. I feel like you could get better value, but he's on a good young offense. He's proven he can finish top 5, obviously top 6, but it's just it's the question mark with Calvin Ridley that really bumps him down.
Yeah, like I said, he's going as a tight end 8 in most leagues, and we have him as our tight end 10. So we personally just aren't really drafting him, but that's just like we didn't really say too much negatives about him. It's just there's a lot of mouths to feed, but he can still be, a good option.
Yep.
Anything else you want to say about Evan before we go to our tight end 9?
No, I mean he could surprise us. I mean, for all we know, Calvin Ridley just is a bust, but I don't see him busting to the point that it catapults Evan Engram to another top 5 performance.
Yeah, before these camp videos, I would have been a little bit more optimistic for Evan Engram, but it really does look like Calvin Ridley is ready to be that alpha, and he's still there physically. But we'll go on to our tight end 9, who we are all consensus just higher on. This is the tight end 13, and we have the NFL Seekers have him as our tight end 9. I have him at 9. Josh has him at 11, and Shane has him as the highest at 8, which is pretty awesome. Shane's drafting him over some pretty established tight ends. I love it. I am too. And I love this guy coming out of Utah as a rookie, 1st-round pick, coming into this beautiful situation with Josh Allen throwing to him. He could be a wide receiver 2 in that offense next to Diggs. Gabriel Davis is looking good in camp, but either way, he's just a really good option and complement to that offense. And I think they're going to use him brilliantly. I think they're going to target him a lot. Whenever Diggs is double teamed, Allen won't really care. He's just going to look right at Dalton Kincaid, and I feel like they're going to develop a pretty good rapport because Kincaid's a really reliable catcher of the football. He's got big hands. He comes down with about anything. Josh Allen's going to fall in love with him, and I'm really excited for this connection. And going as a tight end 13, you guys need to just completely draft this guy in every single one of your drafts. You could probably start him week 1 and he would be fine, and starting him the whole season. But I think he'll definitely emerge as a really, really established fantasy football starter that you need to start every week. And I think he's going to do that as a rookie tight end, which is rare. He's a rare prospect.
He is rare, but also we don't see rookie tight ends be very relevant in their rookie year for fantasy football. I guess that's a big risk. I'm calling my shot here. But it's just something feels different about him in this offense with Josh Allen, the talent that he is, the draft capital. I mean, they're going to use him. He's a 1st-round tight end draft pick. But also the value. You can get him around the 10th round right now. I know we talked about our draft strategy earlier, and I forgot to mention, if I were to get like a Travis Kelce in the 1st round, I would love to draft him later on. Because then if he does explode, you have this great trade asset. And if he doesn't, well, it was only a 10th round pick and I still have Travis Kelce. So I would love to draft him as a backup tight end as well. But I am all for, obviously I have him at 8. I'm all for waiting on him and having him as my starter week 1. It might start out slow. But I definitely see, even if it does start out slow, it'll be worth it by the end. I think he's going to be awesome. Maybe I'm getting a little overhyped with all these training camp hype videos, but seriously, what's coming out about him in their training camp is really promising.
Yeah, something I really like doing in my drafts actually is if it happens that I don't take tight end till later on and I'm around like the 8th or 9th round, I'll take both the Daltons as my tight end. I'll take Dalton Kincaid and then I'll take Dalton Schultz right after. And then I kind of plan on starting Dalton Schultz the first few weeks while Kincaid develops, and then I can start Kincaid when I need him for the playoff push and everything. And I think he's going to be the league winner this year. And as a tight end, that's very valuable. There's not very many tight ends that you can say that about. And I mean, tight ends are horrible. Like if you got 8 points, if your tight end got 8 points last year, it was pretty successful. So the bar, the standard isn't too high here, and he's in Buffalo in one of the more high powered offenses. So I think 8 points won't be too hard for him to reach every week. So I think he's just different. He was different as a prospect. He honestly, genuinely, I say this, like I watched every single snap of Dalton Kincaid since San Diego, and he does have shades of Travis Kelce, the way he runs routes, the way he just like has a feel for getting open, and just the way he moves. It's pretty obvious when you watch him on tape. He just has that little it factor, and it's pretty rare. He was definitely my number one tight end in this draft class, and I think he's going to be special. I hope he doesn't prove me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's going to be somewhat hard to fail in this offense. But I guess we'll see. I'm definitely excited to watch him, and I seriously hope I can get him in as many leagues as I can.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's some negatives. They have a good tight end in Dawson Knox, who Josh Allen's had the last few years, but like Josh Allen hasn't really looked at him. Like last year, especially, he didn't even look at him at all. And it's pretty obvious that they want to use Kincaid as a receiver more anyway. So I'm not really worried at all. And people are pricing Dawson Knox in his ADP, and I think that's just a complete steal. Especially like that's sleeper ADP, so an underdog ADP. So I don't know why he's so low if you're shooting for upside.
The value is so there. You seriously go get this guy on your team. It's if you can wait 10 rounds, or I guess technically 9 picks before you draft tight end, and you get Dalton Kincaid with the pure upside he has, this could be a league winner.
Yep, league winning tight end. You definitely do not hear that often. So rare territory with Dalton Kincaid.
League winning rookie tight end, and we haven't been saying that since I guess a couple years ago with Kyle Pitts, but Kyle Pitts is on a terrible offense. This is just a different situation.
Wow, that could not have been a more beautiful, perfect, poetic transition into our tight end 8. Our NFL Seekers tight end 8 is Kyle Pitts. I have him as my tight end 6. Josh has him as tight end 8, and Shane has him as tight end 9. I'll definitely let Shane talk about Kyle Pitts first.
I mean, I talk about this guy so much, but I'm always going to be down on him until he proves otherwise. And what he has going for him this year is truly like no different than what he's had the last 2 years. He's got a not very good quarterback whatsoever. I think we'll be lucky if Desmond Ridder is better than Marcus Mariota from last year. They have Bijan Robinson on a run heavy offense. They're going to be utilizing the hell out of him with 2 other really good running backs behind him. They're going to be running the ball like crazy. They still have Drake London, who was he a top 10 pick last year?
Yes.
Yeah, they have a top 10 wide receiver that they're going to utilize. They brought in Matt Collins. He is just maybe if he was being drafted in like the 12th round, like yeah, take the shot on him. But he's being drafted at the 5-6 turn right now as a tight end 5. That is so expensive for to draft a tight end who has proved nothing so far. He's been a bust, and he's still going to be a bust until proven otherwise. That's how I feel.
Yeah, so I'll try to play devil's advocate here because I love him as the prospect, as the talent, as the player. He's so talented, so athletic. He's like a receiver as a tight end. We haven't really seen any tight end prospects like him. We saw it in his rookie year. He can be electric. I just really hope they use him in that way again, because it was weird how they used him last year. They used him in a terrible way. But I will say the addition of Jonnu Smith is really, really it makes me optimistic, because I think they're going to use Jonnu Smith as their starting tight end, and they're straight up just going to make Kyle Pitts a receiver and use him a lot more as a receiver and running routes and going vertical. So I really hope that's the case. And it's priced in with his tight end 5 ADP going as the 12th pick in the 5th round. That is where I have him ranked as my tight end 6. When it comes time to go select Kyle Pitts, I don't know if I have the kahunas to do it, if I'm being completely honest. It's really,
that's what I was going to say. When you're on the clock, like, would you truly have the balls to pick this guy? Like, so truly.
Our way too early tight end rankings, I had him at like 5, and you guys kind of started getting me a little bit scared about him. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, maybe I'll lower him down a little bit. And then when it just comes time to drafting him at his ADP, it's definitely scary, because in round 5, round 6, there's still a lot of good players that are going to be starting on your roster. And Pitts is a big question mark that can either make or break your season. And I don't know if I have those kahunas.
I think I mean, that's one of the biggest problems is where he's being drafted, like I said. But at the 5-6 turn, you're looking at guys like Alexander Madison starting running back on a really good offense. Give me my run. I take Alexander Madison as my RB1, depending on how my draft goes. There's just so much talent where he's being drafted that don't have as big of question marks that he does. So that's just why I'm so out on him.
Yeah, and I mean, if you guys are wondering why Shane is so soured, he finished as a tight end 33 last year, and he didn't really even miss any time or anything. It was just bad production.
He, yeah, he missed it. He played 10 games, but
Oh, okay. Oops.
still, like, come on, dude.
Yeah, it was very non-noticeable on the field. But I mean, yeah, the guy's great. They have a lot of weapons around him now, Bijan and Drake London. Hopefully, they can use him as more of a focal point and receiver and target him more, especially in the red zone. Hopefully, he can get some more touchdowns because that would help in fantasy. But it's scary.
Not worth it.
All right. Do you want to move on to our next guy then?
Yeah, let's get off this Pitts dude.
All right. Well, we'll go into someone that you really like, and that is our tight end 7, uh, Pat Freiermuth for the Steelers. I have him as my tight end 8. Josh has him as his tight end 6. He's the highest, and then Shane as his tight end 7. Pat Freiermuth is a really good tight end prospect coming out of Penn State. I love him. He's a really good security blanket for Kenny Pickett. You saw it in his rookie season. He trusted him and relied on him heavily, quick and fast, right as he started. And they developed a pretty good connection. And I feel like I saw Pat Freiermuth getting a lot of first downs over the middle and in the red zone. And he's a chain mover for them. So I think they're going to develop a pretty legendary connection in Pittsburgh. And it's just going to keep developing with more reps in the offseason together. It's a pretty fun duo. And I think I think after Pat, there's a teardrop where I'm taking Dalton Kincaid because I want to put Pat up there because I think he can be a top tight end.
Yeah, I do. Like you mentioned, I really like Pat Freiermuth this year. I mentioned with Evan Engram, I think Evan Engram had 8 games with an over 20% target share. Pat Freiermuth also had 8 games last year with 20% or higher target share, with a couple at 19%. But the difference is between, I guess, what I'm trying to say between him and Evan Engram, why I moved Evan Engram down and why I'm higher on Pat Freiermuth is I feel like the Steelers as a whole, it's just trending up for Steelers as a whole in general. They didn't add any other weapons. Like, sure, they added Allen Robinson, but he's not going to be taken away from this amazing tight end and Pat Freiermuth. Kenny Pickett's only getting better. There's a lot of hype coming out of training camp about him. So it's all going. It seems like it's all up for the Steelers right now. Hopefully they don't let us down, but it's trending up for them, and he's behind. I guess you got George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, and Pat Freiermuth. You could make the argument there's a lot of mouths to feed, but there's also, it feels like there's a good balance of mouths to feed in this offense.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's a perfect complement to those receivers you mentioned. Like, they're nothing like him, honestly. So there really isn't too many mouths to feed that are like Pat, at least in this offense. So I absolutely love him. We all have him higher than his ADP. He's going as the tight end 9 right now, which is pretty incredible and crazy. The first pick in the 8th round. So we're all definitely drafting him. I have found him on a lot of my teams and mock drafts that I've done. I love Pat. He's just a really reliable option. You know that you can start him every week, and he's going to be, nothing scary like Kyle Pitts.
He's a very safe tight end for you to have in your team, and it's great value. It's not a crazy high, 6th, 7th, 5th round pick like you get to, do for Kyle Pitts. 8th round pick. Granted, I guess it depends on your league. Steelers fans are kind of crazy. They like to go after their guys. I feel like it'll be tough for us to get him with someone in our league, but if you can get Pat in the 8th round, that's a great value.
And then we will move on to our NFL Seekers tight end 6, who had a great season last year before he got hurt, Dallas Goedert. I have him at 7. Josh has him at 7, and Shane has him at 6. He's a really good all-around tight end. It was unfortunate he got hurt last year. He finishes at tight end 12 still after missing 6 weeks. So really impressive. And it'll be interesting to see how this Eagles offense fares with him coming back, because I feel like Devontae Smith really took off with Goedert going down with injury, and a lot of that production kind of got skewed And then when Goddard came back, he wasn't great. So like it'll be interesting to see if 2023 Goddard will be pre-injury Goddard or post-injury Goddard, and that how the Eagles offense will, feed all those mouths. It'll be interesting, but I'm still definitely drafting him. He was just such a safe option last year. He was third in points per game among tight ends, which is really impressive at 13, which is great. If you guys had tight ends last year, they were a struggle. So that was fantastic. I think Dallas Goedert is going to be just a good option because of how good and high scoring that Eagles offense is, and you can rely on anyone on that team.
Yeah, I obviously am the highest on Dallas Goedert. He's definitely very safe. He's on a great offense with a great quarterback. He only played 12 games last year, but again, 50% of his games, he had over 20% target share. I think that's a really good threshold to look at when you're looking at tight ends. So he gets targets. And I guess the scary thing you could say with him is once they get down to like that 1 yard line, which seems to happen a lot, they're not going to be throwing the ball to him or anyone, especially him. You'd think they would. He's such a big body. They're going to do that stupid quarterback sneak thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely a con when it comes to drafting him, but I'm trying to, do you know how many touchdowns? Oh, here we go. In 12 games, he
He had
had,
3 last year.
I mean, it's not terrible, but it could definitely be better.
That is a con on him for sure. Is the touchdowns
Yeah.
are going to be really hard to come by as good as their offense is. So maybe he will be a target or a touchdown because touchdowns are very volatile. So I feel like he will get more touchdowns because of how good the Eagles offense is. I feel like 3 will be low, but I think 3 is around what you're going to get.
And as long as he's getting the targets, he's getting we're talking full PPR here. He's getting the targets, he's getting the catches. I feel like the touchdowns will just be a kind of a sprinkle on top. I feel like he's not a boomer bust type of guy like another tight end we'll talk about next. He's more safe. You're not gonna get too many massive weeks out of him, and I don't see him necessarily busting. Last year he finished starting week 1, tight end 13, 7, 9, 11, 5, 33, 11, tight end 1, 12. So like he was top 12 tight end, 8 out of 12 games. That's a very safe tight end.
And you can expect like 5 catches, 50 yards every week, which is 10 points automatically. And then if you get a touchdown on top of that. So that's why he is such a safe option, like you said. And he was last year, that's exactly what he pretty much averaged last year. So
yeah, I mean, with receptions, he's starting week 1, 3 catches, 5, 3, 5, 8, 2. That was a bad week. 6, 8, 3. So exactly like average 5 catches, 40 to 50 yards. Just a safe plug and play tight end every week.
Yeah. Love Goddard. Anything else you want to say about him before we move on?
No, let's move on. I'm excited to talk about this next guy.
Yeah. All right. This is George Kittle, who Josh is definitely higher on the both of us. Me and Shane both have him as our tight end 5, and Josh has him as the tight end 3, and he's actually going as the tight end 4 right now, consensus boards. He's interesting. Josh has him higher than us because of how good he finished the season last year, and Josh had him, and he ended up winning the league because he had some big boom weeks, and that's something George Kittle does is he can rumble down the field for like next thing you know, we'll have like 4 touchdowns and a 50-point fantasy performance out of nowhere. But he is very inconsistent with how many mouths there are to feed in that offense. I think that's why me and Shane both have him at 5 is you don't know where that touchdown's coming from in that offense. There's so many receivers. You could argue that Kittle is going to be like their 4th or 5th option this year. So it is scary. I don't really draft him too much. George Kittle's going in the 4th round, the 10th pick in the 4th round is the tight end 4. So in that area, there's a lot of good running backs and receivers that I definitely find myself choosing. And I'll be honest, I haven't drafted Kittle in any drafts this year.
Yeah, same. If he falls to me, great. But 4th round pick right now, that's too rich for me for a guy like George Kittle. Like you mentioned, he's very boomer bust. Last year, he started off terrible, tight end 23, tight end 37, 22, and then he went on a hot streak of tight end 6, tight end 1, tight end 5, and then their bye week. And then, so like that's very, he's tight end 20 or worse the first 3 weeks. He was a top 6 tight end the next 3 weeks, and then he was tight end 29, tight end 2, 25, 30, 15. He is so all over the place. It's seriously either a top 6 tight end or a not worthy of even being roster tight end. That's why I'm a little bit lower on him. But when you do get those boom weeks, they're massive weeks. It's just hard to judge because you don't really know who's going to be the guy on this offense week by week. It's tough. They have so many weapons. I don't know where I was going with the second one, but it's tough with you don't know when it's going to be the week for him, but also if you do have not Darren Waller, if you do have George Kittle, you're playing him every week. It's just you gotta pray he's not so boom or bust. You're not going to be deciding between him and a waiver wire guy. He's your tight end. You draft him to be your tight end. It's just you got to hope he doesn't bust as much as he did last year, I guess.
Yeah, he had 11 receiving touchdowns last year, which is really impressive. I see that, going down to like 6 or 7. So that'll definitely be a regression. And he finishes a tight end 3 last year. Like I said, he has that upside. He's that volatility to be a league winner. He was last year. I just think, I don't know how old he is, but he's getting up there in age. And I just think he's kind of going to start regressing. They're going to start feeding their other mouths in this offense. And I think this is the year that he doesn't really pay off his ADP. But I mean, he will have those boom weeks. It's a little scary with him.
Yeah, I mean, he's almost 30. He'll be 30 a couple months into the season. That's old. And he's proven he's pretty inconsistent when it comes to staying healthy. Missed a couple games last year, 3 games the year before, played half the season 2020, missed 3 games 2019. So he's like you're almost guaranteed to miss a couple games out of him, which also sucks if you're drafting him in the 4th round.
Yeah, that's another thing is last year kind of felt like a healthy season for him. He stayed healthy from week 3 on, which is really impressive for George Kittle. I don't even know if he's done that in his career yet. So that's awesome. I don't know if that'll continue. Hopefully it does. But yeah, you definitely want to hope for that if you're drafting Kittle in the 4th round.
Definitely.
All right. Do you want to get into our 4th tight end then?
Yeah, I like this next guy a lot.
This is one that the NFL seekers are very, very high on. He's going as the tight end 7 right now in your guys' drafts, and we have him as our consensus tight end 4. That is new Giants tight end Darren Waller. I have him as my tight end 4. Josh has him as his tight end 5, and Shane has him as the highest at tight end 3. I'll let you talk about Waller first, Shane.
Yeah. Man, I forget how long this dude's been in the league. That's wild. So like, I guess just like we were talking about George Kittle with injuries, Darren Waller, he's definitely had his fair share of injuries. So, I mean, all the way back in 2015, only played 6 games, 12 games. I don't know what went on in 2017. He didn't play 1 game. And then first year in Vegas in 2018, only 4 games. And 16, 11 in 2021, and then only played 9 last year. So he's pretty all over the place. It's almost like you can guarantee that he's going to miss a couple games. But on a new team, new training staff, who knows? Maybe they're better than the Raiders training staff. But it's just the position he's in on this Brian Dable. I think that Brian Dable plays a huge part in this for me. He's going to be the Daniel Jones' number 1 target. We saw a huge leap from Daniel Jones last year. Where's he going right now? He's going in the 6th round. You can get a 6th round. I know I mentioned Kyle Pitts. He's going with 5-6 turn. Darren Waller just after Kyle Pitts is, to me personally, a lot safer to get a veteran like Darren Waller on a great offense, on a great team with a solid quarterback thrown to him as the number 1 weapon. Like, he is the clear wide receiver 1 on this team. I know he's tight end, but he's the clear wide receiver 1 on this team. And that's huge. That's part of why I'm so high on him. I just need him to stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no flaws for the guy, and he has 1 flaw, and it's staying healthy. That's literally the one con for Darren Waller's stock is health, and I mean that is being factored into his ADP when you consider he's going behind Kyle Pitts and Goedert, and I mean that's kind of why I was saying I'm not really taking Pitts at his ADP, because you can take someone really good where Pitts is going and then wait a round or 2 and get Waller or Goedert, who I think are even safer options and could be just as good and not scary. You're not pooping every week. So it's a really good value. I find myself drafting Waller more than any tight end right now, other than Kincaid, I guess. But yeah, I absolutely love the guy. All it is that's holding him back is injury, because he is that guy in that offense. I think he can be the alpha number 1 receiver in that Giants offense, and Dable is going to use him in a brilliant way. Daniel Jones is so accurate, and he's going to be putting up a lot of touchdowns. I think they're going to have a lot of red zone production too.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the couple full games he actually played last year, he was the clear. Obviously, he's behind one of the best wide receivers in the league, in Devontae Adams, and then they still had great weapons in Hunter Renfrow. He was hurt last year, but he wasn't the number one guy on his team last year, and he still the first 2 weeks he finished as tight end 9, tight end 2, and then later on in the season, week 15, tight end 6, week 17, tight end 4. That's while being behind one of the best wide receivers in the league. You make this dude the number one target on the offense. I think it's obviously I think he's a top 3 tight end.
Yeah, he's just such a good like football player. You throw it up to him, he'll come down with about any ball. He's a beast. He built like a monster. He's fast, and yeah, he's going as a tight end 7, which has got to be the most comical and best value of any tight end ADP right now in the 6th round. I absolutely love that. I'm smashing him, drafting him every time I can. Love Darren Waller.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, anything else you want to say about him?
No, I want him. I want him bad.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about him too much, to be honest, because I need him on my team.
Yeah.
All right. NFL Seekers tight end 3 is going to be TJ Hockenson, Minnesota Vikings tight end. I have him as my tight end 3. Josh and Shane both have him as their tight end 4. Why is he your 4? It's pretty low, man. It's pretty disrespectful.
No, but like it is for me. It was tough between Waller and Hockenson. I just like the safety of the target, the number one target in the Giants for Waller. That's why I have him above him. But Hockenson, when he got traded to Minnesota last year, his worst finish was, without counting the very last week of the season where he didn't really play, his worst finish was tight end 20. Other than that, tight end, his first week there, he finished as tight end 7, tight end 10, 14, 6, 16, 9, 20, the tight end 1, and then tight end 14. Obviously he's behind Justin Jefferson. I think that's a kind of a blessing in disguise. He's just going to be, it seemed like when he got traded last year, he was just wide open right in the middle of the field, right on the logo. And he just gets these 10 to 20 yards after the catch. Maybe he loses a couple of touchdowns from Jefferson, but I think just the pure volume he'll get just as being the guy behind Jefferson, he's going to be a great tight end to have. I'm lower on him just because of where you have to draft him, and he's not the number one target in his offense.
Yeah, I think there's a real argument to take Hawk as the like the tight end 2 ahead of Mark Andrews. He finished as a tight end 2 last year, and people were doubting him when he came over to Minnesota. People were kind of out on him, and he just went off in Minnesota. I'll be honest, I had a pretty poverty depth on my fantasy team, and I had Thielen starting, and I was watching Vikings games just praying that Thielen would do something. And when Hockenson came over, it was over for Thielen. Hockenson was pretty much used like Thielen. He like had a pretty good chemistry with Kirk on like comebacks, and he's a really good receiver. And I was really surprised how much the Vikings utilized him. Honestly, it's awesome, and I'm really excited for him in the second year of this Minnesota offense. With Thielen leaving, he'll kind of be like that second option while Addison develops. So it's really exciting. I think that him going, so Mark Andrews is going in the 3rd round. TJ Hawkinson's going in the end of the 4th round. I definitely love that value. I kind of want to have Hockenson as my second tight end just because I would definitely prefer that value. So yeah, I'm drafting Hockenson a lot.
Yeah, for me, it feels like I've never drafted it's always been Kelce in the 1st round, or as soon as you can get him, or wait a little bit. 4th round feels kind of awkward to me personally for a tight end, but Hockenson would be worth it to me for a 4th round pick. He's definitely safe, but with boom potential.
Yeah, after the trade last year, he averaged 9.4 targets and 6.6 receptions, and I mean
That's crazy.
an automatic 10-point floor every single week. So you love to see that. That'll probably go up this year with, Jefferson being triple teamed, Thielen leaving, Kirk having more of a rapport with him. I absolutely love TJ Hockenson, and the fact that he's going as the tight end 3 after finishing as a tight end 2 last year and a whole or over a round later than Mark Andrews. I think he's incredible tight end value.
Great value right there for sure. Yep.
I guess like the biggest conversation would be like rank drafting Travis Kelce at 8, Mark Andrews at the first pick in the 3rd round, or TJ Hockenson as the 8th pick in the 4th round? Like what values would you prefer out of those if you had to rank them?
I would go Kelce, Hockenson, Andrews.
Okay. I might go Hockenson, Kelce, Andrews. I
Really?
don't know if I could. I don't love. I mean, actually, with the eighth pick is low. I see Kelce going like 5. If it was like 5, I would prefer Andrews, but with 8, I would take Kelce, I guess. Or
Yeah.
sorry, Hawkinson. But yeah, my point is just Hawkinson is going a little bit lower than these guys that he's honestly pretty close to. I could see him finishing close to Kelce and Andrews. So I love the guy and he's exciting.
He's got a safe quarterback throwing to him.
Yeah, and they're just going to build that connection even more this year, going into their second season. All right, you want to get into our second tight end then?
Yes, do it.
All right, our second tight ends. We're all in agreement on this one. It is our Ravens tight end Mark Andrews. He was electric the last few years. He was the only tight end to overtake Travis Kelce as the tight end one in fantasy football in like the last decade, which is incredible. Props to him. That's a pretty incredible stat. Travis Kelce is the greatest tight end of all time. And yeah, with Lamar Jackson coming back from injury, I'm really excited for Mark Andrews. He's going as the first pick in the 3rd round as the second tight end, like I mentioned. And I think it's scary. You could definitely take him, especially if he starts to kind of fall in your guys' drafts and it's just becoming great value, because I love having my quarterback and tight end taken care of before later rounds. I don't know. It's just, I like having those onesie positions taken care of. And I had Mark Andrews last year, drafted him in the 2nd round, and it wasn't the best season for him. He was, it was a pretty disastrous season for him, but he still, did good when he was out there. He still did, he was still finishing as like a top 5 tight end with Huntley. So he's all you can ask for, really.
He definitely felt like a down season last year, but he still finished as the tight end 4, which is crazy. I feel like should be the consensus fantasy football, if just based on talent and where he's at, just the consensus tight end 2. But he's kind of scary to me. I know I've already mentioned him at the beginning of this episode, but he's kind of scary with the kind of the situation he's in with Lamar Jackson, big rusher. They brought in Odell, they brought in Zay Flowers. Something just feels off with him, and I just, like we mentioned, I'd much rather have Kelce in the 1st and TJ Hockenson later in the 4th. Where Mark Andrews early 3rd round, that's expensive for. I say a guy like Mark Andrews. He's finished since 2019 tight end 4, tight end 5, tight end 1, tight end 4. I don't know. He's gonna have to start regressing at some point. He's almost 28 years old. That's not that old, but he definitely feels older than that, which is kind of crazy. I don't know. He just feels weird to me, and I'm not going to be drafting him anywhere, which probably is dumb. But I'm just not going to draft him anywhere.
Well, another negative too I didn't think of is they brought in Zay Flowers and OBJ, and he's been their main wide receiver focal point alpha the last like 5 years. They haven't had any receivers at all, not one wide receiver one other than Hollywood, who's like a slot receiver. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on that. That could, bring his production down. Todd Monken coming in probably evens that out. But yeah, overall, Mark Andrews is going to be super solid, but he's going high.
Yeah, he's still great, but expensive.
His greatness is being factored into that ADP. All right. And with that, we'll get into the number 1 tight end, the greatest tight end in NFL history. Everyone's number 1 tight end in the world, Travis Kelce, the beast for the Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl champion. You could go on for days with superlatives about how great this guy is. To give you guys some context about how dominant he was last year, it might have been the biggest positional advantage in fantasy football history. He finished with 316.3 fantasy points at tight end. Number 2, TJ Hockenson, who finished with the second most fantasy points, finished with 215. So he had 101 more fantasy points than the next closest. And 3rd place was George Kittle at 200, and he was 116 points more than 3rd place. So just an absolutely huge positional advantage. I'll let Shane talk about this one. Even though he didn't take advantage of that positional advantage, he had Kelce and Mahomes and didn't win the league.
Wow, it hurts. That's actually exactly what I was going to say. Somehow I wasn't able to take advantage of not only just Kelce, but also I had the stack with Mahomes. DeAndre Swift definitely screwed me over. Keenan Allen being out for the first 10 weeks definitely screwed me over. Okay, anyways, we won't talk about that. It's when talking about Travis Kelce, I guess you're trying to find negatives. I don't know how you can find any. It's not like they brought in a Tyreek Hill or any superstar wide receiver. He's the guy with one of the best quarterbacks, if
Wait,
arguably.
wait, Justin Ross.
Shut
Justin
that
Ross.
off. But it's last year. I just mentioned the 20%, 20 target, whatever. What's that? 20
Target share.
yeah, 20% or higher in target share. He had every single game above that except for one that was at 19. Um, I guess it's like everyone knows that. Everyone knows Travis Kelce is the guy. He's worth the first round pick. I would take him as early as 105, maybe 104. I don't know. But
I personally, the earliest I would take him is like 5 or 6. It depends on like who's there, but I would probably take him 5 or 6, depending on if I'm really feeling Bijan or not.
I would take him. I would really be considering him at 4.
Okay, so like over Tyreek Hill and Cooper Cup.
Yep.
Okay,
It,
and
it, it'd be Jefferson, McCaffrey, Chase, and then I'd be thinking about him.
so over Eckler too.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, so you think you'll take him as if you have the fourth overall pick?
He will be in heavy consideration. Yes.
Okay.
Um, truly, I don't like what negatives are there about him? Just draft him. He plays. He doesn't get hurt. Knock on wood. But yeah, that's it. And a story of Travis Kelce.
I mean, the last 3 years you could have. I mean, the last 10 years you could have taken him as a third pick, and you would have been perfectly fine. It would have been a good pick in the end. So I don't disagree with you at all. It hurts taking someone that a tight end in the first round. It's crazy, but he's definitely worth it. 152 targets shouldn't even be legal for tight ends. That's crazy. He's not a tight end. He's just the wide receiver one for the best offense in the NFL. At the end of the day,
His worst finish was tight end 8. That was his sophomore year. His rookie year, he finished better. Tight end 7, tight end 8, and then 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1. Like,
wow,
it's crazy.
that is incredible.
Man, draft this dude. If you take any advice from NFL seekers, draft Travis Kelce. There you go. You're welcome.
Yeah, we're not going to go on for too long talking about this guy. It's pretty easy analysis telling you guys to draft this great legendary tight end. I mean, you go on his points last year. He had 26, 11, 18, 24, 33, 20, 16, 21, 21, 36, 16, 8, 12, 21, 17, 11, 10. So he had one game under 10 points. It's just that if that's your wide receiver one, you're very happy. So he is just incredible. I do get why you would take him in the top 5 because that's better than what any wide receiver one would do.
I will just a quick little side note. I'll never forget last year. I think it was Monday Night Football week 11. They were playing the Chargers, and I had 2 guys left, Kelce and Mahomes. I was down by like 70 points, and I was on a plane. I remember, and I landed. Kelce, he finished with 35 points, and Mahomes had like something crazy, and I won. I needed like 60 or 70 points from 2 guys. It's just like that's how crazy these two, but Kelce, it's crazy how crazy they are.
Yeah, that's the type of legendary special stuff they can pull off, and they consistently pull it off because they got Andy Reid coaching them. They're the best trio in NFL history, and they're a dynasty. And they'll keep it up. I don't see it slowing down to you.
Never, ever.
Like it's hard to predict any cons or regression when there's no like signs of regression. They just won the Super Bowl and dominated doing it. So it's just really hard to not have him as tight end one.
I mean, he's 34 years. He's gonna be 34 years old in a couple months. Like that's the only thing. But
this was really fun. It was really fun going over all these tight end rankings. We'll have Josh with us for the rest of our rankings. Our next episode is going to be our top 20 to 10 wide receiver rankings, and then we'll have our top 10 wide receivers as well. We'll do the same for running backs, and then we'll have a top 10 quarterback rankings. So definitely stay tuned this month for you guys' drafts, for our NFL Seekers rankings, what we think of all these guys. We put a lot of thought and consideration into these rankings, so it definitely will help your guys' leagues. And yeah, stay tuned. We got some deep dives. We got 2 more coming out. So yeah, it was really fun, Shane. Thank you.
yeah, that was awesome. We'll be back with what'd you say next? Wide receivers?
Yep, wide receivers.
Sweet.
All right, peace.
Peace.